Many of you may not know much about me, and perhaps you don't need to know, but let me tell you a little bit about what I've done in the past, and one of my craziest experiences from ghost hunting. I've always been an avid ghost hunter, going around with my friends and even alone to some of the world's creepiest places. Although I've never done it to the level that I'd like to, I've tried my best to experience the unknown from my own eyes. I never used to believe in ghosts until I started experiencing things firsthand that even I couldn't explain. I've gone to haunted homes, abandoned asylums, prisons, and places that in general you wouldn't want to catch yourself alone at, because after all, to tell horror stories, you have to experience it for yourself. A while back, I planned to go to one of the scariest places in the world, with one of the most haunted histories in the past, and that was the real Conjuring house. And I was extremely excited to visit with my cousin, who was also a skeptic at the time. Even before that, we'd only really been on one ghost hunt together, and then we dived headfirst into one of the most evil places that you could. The waiver included horrifying things like demonic possession, electrical shock, or being followed home. However, we were very excited that day to experience something that we never had before. Driving all the way to the Conjuring home, we nearly missed it because it was hidden by trees amongst dense brush. And as we drove down the road and stopped in front of our destination, someone appeared out of the bushes to scare us. As we finally found the driveway to our destination, going up to the home, a large skeleton was outside waiting for us, most likely as a prop for Halloween. As we pulled in and got out of our car, the door to the Conjuring house opened, with two hounds coming outside. They immediately started barking, protecting the area, and the owner came out with them. Through our quick introductory meeting, we told him we were there to stay the night at the Conjuring house, to which he agreed to let us inside, of course, as we had it booked for months. First, we signed another waiver, and then we were allowed to write our names on the walls, allowing us to be forever engraved and part of this nightmarish home. He had told us that people experience horrible things when they come here, and that he also doesn't believe that it's fully demonic, but that it may be Gettysburg soldiers as well. He also went on to tell us how much of a nightmare it was to own the place, as people would come by often and try breaking into the property while they slept there. He even recounted the story of calling the police to arrest a man with gasoline who was trying to burn the demons from the earth by burning down this home. As we wrote our name on the walls and went inside the actual house, you could truly tell how old it was. The light was dim, barely lighting the way to the kitchen of the home, which would be our nerve center. And prior to that was a fake Annabelle doll in a glass case that said "Do not open." He then went on to tell us that the cameras that we'd bring to film the ghost and see if we could hear them were useless, as they knew that we were here to film them. He would go on to say that they would rarely answer to our questions, but most likely speak when we were talking to each other. But of course, my cousin and I were up to the challenge. Alas, we were left alone for the night in the house, just me and my cousin. The first few hours were truly quiet and honestly comforting. Little to nothing went on as we investigated the house and we got accustomed to every location, from the library to the kitchen to the living room to upstairs. It was all dead. Now obviously with ghost hunting, you can't expect anything to happen right off of the bat, but this was 2 hours of almost nothing. So much so that we were starting to fall asleep in the most haunted place of the house. As we got up to move and stretch our legs, we heard a noise from downstairs. Not just a noise, but a constant scratching and rummaging, almost as if someone was looking through our gear and checking everything out piece by piece. As we got closer to the steps, I screamed, "Is anyone down there?" To which the noise stopped. This is when things started to pick up. We would move through the home and start doing spirit box sessions, such as in the library. I asked if there was a crew that had come before us, and what was their name, to which they said Ghost for the Ghost Adventures crew. We would hear knocks and scratches in places that we didn't have our eyes on. And then, after everything, we went to the scariest place that we thought of, the basement. Now the basement is known to have a woman called the Crooked Woman in there. A woman with a broken looking neck that children had drawn on the furniture after seeing it down there. I had went down alone, and which was most likely a bad idea. And as I was walking, I heard a piece of furniture being pushed behind me, as loud as can be. It sounded as if someone had actually pushed a sofa right behind me. Being freaked out but determined to go on, I then sat at the table with my cousin in the basement. The table that's right next to the open well where the Crooked Woman is said to live, coming out on unexpected visitors. We received freaky spirit box recordings amongst sitting at the table and hearing a knock so close to us in which none of us even moved on. A knock so loud that we looked at each other trying to blame each other for moving, but none of us did. Afterwards, we'd gone upstairs, into which we heard 3 knocks in a row, the mark of the Trinity. Amongst a long night, this home had gone from feeling very comfortable to almost feeling like someone was watching every move that we made, peeking around the corners and doors, keeping a close eye on us. Then came 3 in the morning, to which is still the most scary ghost hunting experience I've ever had in my entire life. And whether it was a ghost or a demon, I don't know, but here's what happened. My cousin at the time had never watched the Conjuring movies, so I explained a little bit to him, mentioning the word demon along the way. Next to us in the living room, amongst the fireplace, was a Ouija board, sitting and waiting. As soon as I mentioned that word demon, the lights in the kitchen started flashing and flickering. Knocks and scratches started happening in the room next to us, and whispers between 2 spirits seemed to be ongoing for more than a minute. And I know how this sounds. It sounds like something that's made up and straight out of a horror movie, but it actually happened exactly like that. The spirits who were whispering to each other went on for so long that me and my cousin looked at each other in fear, shaken, sitting at the table in the kitchen, just wondering what the hell actually happened. This shook us so much that we refused to move from that room for a good 15 minutes, until my cousin finally decided he had enough of the house and ended up leaving, sitting in the car and recollecting his thoughts. I couldn't blame him and told him to do what was best for him, as I stood in the kitchen alone with the hair on my arm standing up. My voice had never been so shaken in my life, and quite honestly, I'd never experienced anything like that ghost hunting still to this day. From me being comfortable to exploring the home, to barely wanting to step out of the kitchen into any other part of the house. What I'd also learned is apparently the kitchen has a bunch of items that ward off evil spirits, and most people use it to keep as their home base. I had felt that if I left the kitchen and went into any other part of the home, I would be unsafe. I had been so shaken that on camera when I sent a video to my girlfriend, she was actually scared for me, not ever seeing me like this. I was shaking holding the camera, with my voice not having any consistency in it, having a hard time getting my words together to tell anybody what happened. The ghost hunter in me wanted to continue exploring, so I called a friend on FaceTime to keep me company as I walked throughout the house, including the basement. As I stepped into the basement one last time, I felt incredibly unwelcome, with what seemed like millions of eyes peering at me as I stepped into the darkness, so I went back upstairs. Anywhere I went, I felt unsafe, as if they didn't want me there any longer and were just staring at me to make me leave the house. And it worked. My cousin came back in the house, wanting to leave for good. So he did. I can't quite begin to explain the full night and how everything happened, but it was honestly one of the scariest, if not the scariest moment I've ever had. That sense of pure fear and dread is something that I haven't experienced yet again. It's part of the reason I started this channel and continue to ghost hunt to this day. There's another veil in this world that we've never seen, and what lies beyond it is something that I'm interested in exploring. I've asked you on this channel if viewers would like to see me do ghost hunts and post them up on here, to which I probably will. But to close this video out, the Conjuring house is one of a kind, and there's no other place like it that I've been to and experienced something like that. It's calling me back, and sooner or later I'm going to answer that call and return to finish the unfinished business that I have laying there for me.